Ah, the prophecy of Fontaine. The one that states all the people will soon join the water and become fish people and share this weird hive mind with one another, leaving only the Hydro Archon weeping at her throne. The alpha and omega of this great nation, the end-all be-all. What a load of hogwash. What if I told you that this prophecy has happened plenty of times before, and that is exactly why Furina cannot save Fontaine, because I'm calling it right now, folks. The prophecy of Fontaine is an eternal recurrence event. For those that have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, an eternal recurrence event is quite simply a cycle of creation, existence, dissolution, and rebirth. So yes, this current prophecy, which states all life will be swallowed by the sea, leaving only the Hydro Archon weeping on her throne, is not unique to this era, and has sort of already happened before, 2 times. To be exact, both times were documented in a lovely book called The History and Fall of Rumeria. The first time Celestia decided to throw a way too deep pool party in Fontaine was thousands of years ago. The place wasn't even called Fontaine yet, and this was simply known as the First Era. I gotta turn off the black voice for this manga, you feel me? Once upon a time, in a city nestled between the realms of earth and heaven, there lived a community graced by the presence of celestial envoys. Their days were filled with laughter and kindness as earthly souls danced in harmony with their heavenly companions. But as time wove its tapestry, a restlessness stirred within the hearts of the people. They yearned for adventures beyond the promises of the heavens, for treasures that glittered in the distant horizon. Yet as they gazed toward the unknown, the skies grew quieter, its streets echoing with memories. The heavens, their once serene visage twisted in wrath, beheld the changes sweeping through their beloved city, with a mounting fury, a tempest of celestial discontent. Then one fateful day the skies wept. The heavens, their gentle countenance replaced with a furrowed brow, brought forth a deluge that washed over the city, cleansing its streets and transforming its very essence. The rain fell like tears of a grieving deity, a tempest born from a celestial heart heavy with both sorrow and anger. In the aftermath, the people returned wiser and humbler. They had sought what was not promised to them, and in doing so they had invoked a change that neither they nor the heavens could have foreseen. The end. Yeah, I didn't write that shit, bro. Shout out ChatGPT, man. I have no shame. Anyway, you heard right, my friends. Everything was going fine in this first city under the primordial one. People were living in harmony with the celestial envoys until, people grew bored with this existence and they wanted things that were never promised to them by Celestia. That's word for word what the book says. And as a result, Celestia sort of just chose to kill as a warning. And they wiped this city off the goddamn map. The book says word for word, it rained for 100 days to drown out sin and arrogation. This is the first and earliest example of people becoming one with the water and disappearing among the sea, no butterflies, as a result of their sin. But what really happened here? I think the most interesting part of this whole book is the mention that the people wanted things that were never promised to them. One way to achieve this forbidden power is through alchemy. This theme of people trying out alchemy to go above and beyond and Celestia responding in kind would be the first time this happened, but certainly not the last as seen with Conria. Next, there's the topic of sin and arrogance. We all know how Celestia feels about mankind's arrogance.
The arrogation of mankind ends now.
But what exactly is meant by sin and how is it related to Fontaine? I ask this because we know everyone in Fontaine is born with sin, and despite that all life in Tivat originates from the primordial sea, only the people from Fontaine will die when they come into contact with it. If we assume it's because only the people in Fontaine bear this original sin, then what is this sin, and why do the people of Fontaine have it? The idea of being born with sin is not unique, as in faiths like Christianity, it claims everyone is born with sin. This is a result of Adam and Eve eating the forbidden fruit despite God commanding them not to. The entire story of the First Era people and the story of Adam and Eve are very similar. In both stories, the groups were living peacefully with the divine before they went against their creator in an effort to acquire something forbidden, and as a result, they may have cursed their lineage with the inherited consequence of sin. However, in Christianity, the way one can rid themselves of this innate sin is through baptism, but in Fontaine, there's no way. Not for now, anyway. The first instance of a prophecy spelling out doom for a city was a bit after the first occurrence, but well before our current time in a kingdom called Rumeria. A bit after the first sinking, a man named Remus literally descends, he literally just descended, that's all it says, and establishes order with the survivors of the flood. He taught people how to farm and raise crops in the land and built temples and cities with giant rocks to house the people. Most importantly, It was he who spread the beauty of music and arts which differentiated humans from other living things, causing them to see themselves as the master of all. Everything was going great until a prophecy started circulating, sound familiar, that stated the greatest empire will face the most utter destruction, and this is Fortuna. As a result, God King Remus, which is now what he's known by, devised the plan to counteract this prophecy of doom. He composed a, quote, harmonious symphony of prosperity, believing so long that as all the cities echoed with his greatest songs, they would escape the judgment of fates. Furthermore, he promoted 4 humans to help him run the place and shared some of his power and authority with them. For a while, everything seemed great. The city was thriving, music filled the streets, and it seemed like the God King Remus had really averted this city's demise. Everything was going swimmingly, swimmingly, until it wasn't. According to the authors of this book, nothing can escape fate's decree, and to even try is a sin. Another one of the God King's sin was sharing his divine powers with humans, which should have been reserved for the gods alone. As a result, this shared power led to chaos and corruption, leaving the city in a state of violence and revolts. And in accordance with fate, Remuria would soon be wiped off the map, killing Remus and destroying the Empire. And that right there was the first instance of an empire falling to prophecy. We once again see the themes of sin and arrogation rise up. God King Remus bore sins due to his sharing of divine power, as well as trying to avert destiny. And once the 4 chosen ones got their share of power, they became arrogant, leading to chaos and corruption within the empire. Notably, this wouldn't be the last time sin was tied to a prophecy, as the current one is also laced with sin. One question I have surrounding this entire thing is, where did this sin originate from? Was it during the first era, or was it during God King Remus's reign? It should be worth noting that some think God King Remus was a shade of the primordial one, so it could make sense that the deadliest sin originates from him, but it doesn't help to explain how the people before him also had sins of their own, and how that ties into the web of sins that Fontaine seems to be facing today. Anyway, after the fall of Rumeria, the first Hydro Archon, oh my god, her name, it's okay, calm down. Someone just sound it out and you'll get close enough. Egeria. The first Hydro Archon, Egeria, would gather the survivors of Remuria and start anew once again. However, this time Fontaine would finally be established. However, somehow she knew about the prophecy in the future or something like that, because her final words were, these weren't her final words, but some of her lasting words were,
"The original sin is the fairest. Everyone sinks. Make the most of the final feast, because for the sinners, the curtain call has come."
So there you have it. Fontaine is in this sort of samsara where they're constantly being destroyed and rebuilt and destroyed and rebuilt, and this seems to be the 3rd cycle. So, I mean, the citizens of Fontaine, you better pack your floaties, motherfuckers, because you guys are going to the deep end. Unless they can find a way to remove their sin. I personally think that if a way to remove the sin was found, then everyone would be fine. But who knows? I also think that because Celestia seems to be really angry whenever people try to avert fate, maybe Celestia will finally get involved in the plot when the Traveler, you know, the unknown, what did Bryden call this thing? The exception comes and you know does some watch out plot armor and that and breaks Fontaine free from this samsara.